All right, so in this video, what we're gonna go over is a goal setting process that I use with all of my clientele to help them focus on their mind state while they play, but also give more purpose to what we're doing when we're practicing, and hopefully use this as a tool to motivate them to do more work on their own. All right, so what I wanna notice here is there's 3 tiers, and this is just a system I've been using as of late. There's a lot of different goal setting systems out there. This has worked really, really well for me and my clientele. At the top level here, up in the clouds, that's gonna be our vision, okay? And this is a results-oriented goal. We want this to be quantifiable. So a lot of times when you're trying to get better at something, whether it's a sport or whatever particular skill, you want to get specific about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So in this case, we set a goal as scoring 5 points per game. So obviously as a lacrosse player, that's more of an offensive minded focus. We can talk about how you would use this same system in a defensive way as well. For this example, we'll say our goal is to average 5 points per game for a season. That'd be a pretty good season, all right? Second tier, all right, is going to be the things that we actually do have control over. So part of what we want to understand is you don't have control over how many points you score. You don't have control over how many goals or assists that you get, but you do have control over the attempts that you take, right? And how you're getting your shots, where you're taking your shots from, how you're releasing them, things like that. So we want to get specific about what I just described there and give ourselves the best chance of success. But we don't want to expect to get, a certain amount of points per game, but we want to expect ourselves to try a certain amount of attempts per game with the hope that things average out over time. So on this second category, right, where we have a volume of shots, right, we're going to take a certain number of shots per game that give us the best chance for success. A volume of dodges, right? How many times are you going to attack your defender, right? Depending on what your role is for your team, right? And where you like to dodge from, we can get very, very specific with those as well. What that's going to lead to is more data, things that you can analyze your own play objectively with, right? It's not just like, how'd you feel today? It's how many times did you dodge? Where did you dodge from? Which ones worked? Which ones didn't? What can we adjust? What should we be working on, to maximize our on-field performance? So if I'm looking at how many shots we're taking, that's going to lead me to a shooting percentage. So let's say as an example, I want to make this, 2 goals and 3 assists. So for those 2 goals, how many shots will I really have to take in order to score 2 goals? Well, if you have a 25% shooting percentage, you're going to have to take 8 shots, right? If you want to score 4 goals, one of 2 things need to happen. You need to start taking 16 shots, or your shooting percentage needs to jump up to 50%, right? So you need to start taking smarter shots or add more volume or some combination of both, right? So that's going to be an objective way to look at, how you're doing from an offensive shooting standpoint. The slide percentage, so this is something that's not really talked about a lot. If you are dodging, let's say 10 times in one game, out of those 10 dodges, how many times did you draw a slide? So what that's going to allow you to do is then be more specific on what situation you need to improve on. So for example, if I dodge 10 times in a game and I don't draw a single slide, right? I never actually beat my defender and make the defense rotate. I clearly need to get better at the actual act of dodging, right? I need to get either faster or have better stick protection. There's going to be a specific moment I need to get better at, and that's beating my defender. Where maybe there's another player that is dodging 10 times in a game and get slid to 5 or 6 times, right? But they don't get any points out of it. They don't get any goals. They don't get any assists. So what does that tell us? That tells us that our dodging is actually pretty good, but we need to work on our decision making after the dodge. So this allows the athlete to be more objective when they self-evaluate. All right. What we're looking at for this bottom tier, right, and this is sort of like the magic sauce, right, you want to be in the moment. So we want to be trusting our gut instinct. This is one of these things, trusting your gut. It's tossed around a lot and we hear that, but to do it consistently is so much easier said than done. So how do we want to be trusting our gut, consistently, and how are we going to put ourselves into that mind state to hopefully, right, execute on that every single time we play? This is what we're really after, right? The magic flow state. Some people could call it, being in the zone, white moments. There's lots of different terms for it. One of the well-described, one of the ways that I've heard to describe this well is flow state is the act of being fully immersed in the task at hand. So you are so focused, your attention is so embedded in the actual task at hand that you enter a state of flow where you stop trying and you just do, right? You're not thinking about what you're doing, you're just doing it. And there's obviously levels of flow state. Some athletes never experience like a really very, very, very deep level of flow state. Most athletes, I would think, most athletes do experience some form of this phenomenon where they'll make a play and they don't really remember how they did it, or a certain amount of time will go by and then they'll feel like it flew, or a play will happen and it just feels like it happens in slow motion. So there's all these different experiences that athletes have documented over the years of levels of flow state. But this is what we're after here, right? This is the goal, right? Whether we're trying to score 5 points per game or make a team, that's a quantifiable goal. That could be your goal, just to make a varsity team, something like that. The thing you want to do is you want to be in flow state as much as possible. Again, much easier said than done. And the hope that I want to get out of this particular video is understanding that you can use a strategy to maximize the chances of this, and that is understanding that you do not control this and you can control this. So how is that going to help you in a game scenario? Well, if the ball, in this case for an offensive player's perspective, if the ball was coming from defense to offense, and in that player's own mind, they're thinking, next time I get that ball, I'm going to try to score a goal, right? A result that they don't have control over. If they get that ball and they attack the cage aggressively and they get to a good spot and they shoot and they miss, they are much more likely to start having negative self-talk because they were going for that result. They didn't achieve it. Their expectation was high. Now they're disappointed in themselves and they start talking negatively, right? We've all been in that scenario as a competitive athlete. Whereas if instead I focus on the controllable, same scenario, but the ball is coming down to me, and instead of me saying I want to score a goal, I'm telling myself I'm going to take a good shot. So that ball comes to me, I attack aggressively, I get to a good spot, I take a good shot, and I miss. Now I'm much more likely to call it what it is, right? Man, that goalie made a nice save, or I just missed. I'm not going to stop trying though, right? We have control over how many attempts we take, how many opportunities we seize, not the result. So when we let go of that need to get the result and focus on what we actually need to do, to give ourselves the best chance, that's one strategy to give yourself a better chance to enter this flow state that we're after here as athletes. So hopefully this video was helpful, and if you have specific things you would either like me to talk about in this regard or that you're interested in, please provide feedback. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.